Alright everyone, it is Dokkan time again today, and we are going to be going through the how to build for the EZA LR TEQ Super 17. Yes, nobody can actually beat him when he is Super 17. Well, that's not 100% true. The meme lives on, but we'll see if the unit lives on. So, if you're new to the channel, my name is Saiyan, and we go through how to build hidden potential for Dokkan battle units here on the channel. Otherwise, I do other Dragon Ball videos such as Genshin Squadra and more in the future. If that sounds good to you, please go ahead and hellstorm the like and subscribe button, and apparently there's a hype button, so hit that one too just in case. And I think we'll just kind of jump right into it, and yeah. So we're going to go through the breakdown, and then we'll go through defense, and yep, error, roll tips, and yeah, hidden potential. So 200% leader options are looking good, technically speaking, but unfortunately I would have to say that he does have very little options as of the time of recording, specifically in October of 2025. So if you have specifically Omega Shenron, that's going to be his basically sole team. This Super 17 does have quite a few restrictions, unfortunately, and it does kind of hamper him to a specific team. Right now, at the time of recording, this is the best and personally only choice I would give to really put him on a team. If you don't have Omega Shenron, then I don't really think he has a place. You can, of course, throw him onto other teams, but I will tell you that they probably will not work. But let's just kind of get into why that is. So leader skill wise, his leader skill is GT Boss is an android key plus 4 HP attack and defense of 170. His 12 key super is greatly raising attack and raising defense for 1 turn. No, the 12 key does not stack. And then his 18 key super is greatly raising attack, which is stacking, causes mega colossal damage, and greatly lowers the enemy's defense. Ironically enough, the greatly lower is only 10% higher than his 12 key. But anyways, so yes, he does stack attack on his 18 key. This is something that you should probably keep in mind, as it is one of his key points of usage, as he can do some pretty decent damage in my opinion. Now, as far as his passive goes, attack and defense of 200, chance of performing a critical hit, and damage reduction rate of 17%. Yes, they had to go with the puns. They had to stick with the puns. I mean, I find them hilarious, but at the same time, I kind of wish it was more. Now, receiving an additional key plus 2 per rainbow key sphere obtained. Per androids, target Goku or GT bosses category ally attacking in the same turn, he gets an additional attack and defense of 50%. So, as far as I'm aware, this does not count himself, it only counts the allies. So that's an extra 100% attack and defense. This is pretty straightforward, as in you do need a full team of whatever this is, because 50% less attack and defense is pretty huge. And once I show you the defense numbers, I'm going to promise you that his defense is already kind of low areaed, to the point of where 50% to 100% lowering of attack would just be detrimental. When there is another android's or target Goku ally attacking in the same turn, randomly changes key spheres to rainbow key spheres, defense 170, and damage reduction rate of 17%. Yes, once again, we have to stick with the 17 theme here. So this is a bit of a reason why I said like a couple minutes ago that he is a little restricted. As you can see, he has GT bosses up here, but he does not have GT bosses down here. So what this means is that if you want his full passive to be going off, you will need to run a full androids or target Goku ally team specifically. Otherwise, yeah, GT bosses is pretty much the full easiest team at the time of recording, thanks to Omega Shenron himself, of course. More than likely, you will not be having this going off, and Omega Shenron will basically be supplementing the loss of defense and damage reduction. Now, for every rainbow key sphere obtained, he launches an additional attack that has a 70% chance of becoming a super attack up to 2 times. So basically, make sure you require 2 rainbow key spheres with him every time you utilize him, so that you have 2 70% chances to super attack. That's basically, I'm not going to say he's going to guarantee triple, but he's at least, I would say he's almost guaranteed a double super every single turn. Obviously, you have your hidden potential to potentially quad super, but on average, you probably will still only double super and have 2 normals. But, you know, everyone's RNG is different, so it can vary. You do want him to triple, by the way. Now, when activating the active skill or when attacking with 17 or more ki, attack and defense is 70% and another chance of performing a critical hit plus 17%. When he receives an attack, he gets an additional damage reduction rate of 17% and defense plus 100%. And for every attack received, ki plus 1 up to 7, an attack and defense chance of performing a critical hit plus 10% up to 70. So basically what this means is once 17 is hit 7 times, he has a 70% chance to critical. Top that off with literally just hitting 17 ki and he's at 87%. And then if you actually no, he's actually at 100% because he already has a natural 17% chance. So 7 hits in and he's 100% guaranteed chance to critical. So there's no reason to give this 17 any critical, which annoys the crap out of me because that's not how he was built before. Anyways, active skill. He does have his Electro Eclipse Bomb, which causes ultimate damage to the enemy and lowers the attack and defense of the enemy by 17% for 1 turn. This can only be activated after the character has received 7 or more attacks in battle, 1 time only. I'm not going to say this is an amazing active skill, but it is something at the very least. We are getting more fights where you can lower attack and defense, so it could potentially come into play at some point. Now, Link skills-wise, Android's Assault, Fear and Faith, Fused Fighter, Nightmare, GT, Fierce Battle, and Legendary Power. On average, you probably will not be getting all of his defensive links going off, and by that I mean you probably will not be getting Android Assault. Android Assault is a nice little Ki plus 2, Defense plus 20%. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, most likely you are not running a full Android team with this guy. Sure, you can do it for funsies, but at the moment, I'd say Androids is pretty weak, and you will not see it activated. So his only other primary defensive link you'll probably be seeing active is GT specifically, and then of course you'll probably have Nightmare, Fear and Faith, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power, and the occasional Fused Fighter. Now, as far as his link partners go, you know, eventually this Hellfighter 17 will eventually EZA, and when he does, you know, he's got that perfect partner kind of synergy. I do look forward to whenever this happens, but currently there is just no options and no possible options either. It would be way too soon for a 13 Super EZA. It's way too... I mean, this guy's not even going to get a Super EZA. You know, his links are pretty, you know, all over the place. As you can see, though, with Omega, he does link up pretty decently, as I said, though. GT, Fear of Faith, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Not terrible, not great either, but not terrible. Considering Omega actually does support, it does make up a little bit for it. What is unfortunate, though, is that, you know, the LR Rose does exist. He would be a fantastic Slot 1 partner to this guy, because I do not believe 17 is a Slot 1 unit. Although I do think he is a very good defensive unit on his best day, I do not think that he should be in Slot 1. And unfortunately, Rose only shares 3 possible categories with him. And with each of those 3, none of them are androids, none of them are GT bosses, and of course, none of them are Target Goku. Are oddly enough, I feel like maybe Rose has an argument for being on Target Goku, but he's not. So at the moment, GT bosses is his primary home. You know, Omega Shenron is his primary partner from the looks of it. But he can only kind of get more options as time goes on. If we got a new Target Goku leader skill, I think that would be his new best friend home. But until that day happens, he's just kind of a good unit that's kind of locked behind a lot of restrictions. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the defense numbers that will be compliments of Bloodraven over on Twitter. Now I'm going to go ahead and start off with a 55% calculations that he has popped up. I don't think he has too much to really work with here. I think he has a really good optimal high damage reduction. It's all depending on your rotation, what team you can pop him into. But yeah, let's just kind of go jumping in. So 55% wise, you know, let's just cut through the clatter here and really just go down to the point of where what I said before. He needs to be on Omega's team. On Omega's team is a 140% support. You got your full rotation of either GT bosses or target Goku or Android, and then you actually do have his full passive going off. In this scenario, you can get him up to a 3.5 million defense if he potentially quad supers. I don't think he's going to quad super, that's the thing. I think he's only going to double super at best, meaning he'll only get up to about the 2 million range, which means that you're probably looking at about 2.5 million defense roughly. Now, 2.5 million defense wouldn't bother me too much if it wasn't for the fact that his damage reduction is a little bit gated, as Bloodraven does comment in this post of his. We'll go back into here. So, just doing some math here, you got your normal damage reduction of 17%, and then you'll have damage reduction of 17% again when receiving an attack. So that alone is already putting you at a, 34% damage reduction? 34% damage reduction isn't much, but if you have double Omega, that's a 20% increase so long as you've been keeping up his Rainbow Key Spheres on Omega, meaning that's an extra 20%, so you're at 54% damage reduction. Now, 50% damage reduction is pretty decent, it's okay, but at 2.5 million defense on average, that's probably not going to be good enough. I mean, I do enjoy Omega, and I think he's amazing. His domain is great. It will make up for certain things, but I do believe that 2.5 million defense is too low. Though I do think that he will be probably more on average of being in the 3 million range with extra support, domain, etc., etc. So I do feel like there's some kind of back and forth things that could be keeping his defense up higher. Not to mention orbs. If you have a level 8 or level 7 or level 6, 5 defensive orb into him, depending on your dupe range, you could be okay-ish. But I can't stress enough that unless you actually have the Android or target Goku ally attacking in the same turn to get this extra 17% damage reduction to push him up to the 70% range, then I cannot stress enough that he's going to potentially get you killed. A lot of his defense is going to be really hindering on him getting his additionals in and being fully built up. 55%, you're pretty bottlenecked. So do what you can. But if you do have dupes, or at least of the hope of Rainbow, if you do get to the potential chance of a Rainbow, I will say that he does get a little bit better in that, you know, if you do get the quad super, you will be up to about 4 million defense, almost 4.5, 4.2. So you are sitting pretty nice there, but once again, 50% damage reduction, that means you're only surviving about 8 million supers. We are getting into the game's life cycle where we're taking 10 million damage on a regular. If the boss gets left alone, alive, to, you know, build up his damage, you will be taking crap loads of damage. So I think 17 really does need to be kind of utilized specifically in fights where you have a natural guard. In other words, putting him up against AGL type enemies. So there is a nice new red zone boss of Broly in the Saiyan red zone. So that would be a nice place to try and utilize him. I think he'd be nice and comfy there, do some good work. And I think that's pretty much where you want to kind of use him, is type advantage-esque scenarios. But I digress. Anyways, so as far as his defense goes out of the way, I would like to show his attack, but I don't have any calculations for that, but I do think I can find some somewhere. So if we actually go to the official Dokkan Battle post, there is this one user right here that does pop up damage numbers. I'm not going to say they're accurate. I don't know this user, this gacha player, Nick, but if it is true to what it is, with 3 GT bosses on rotation, turn 1, 30 million damage isn't too bad. You know, 30 million, he has potential to quad super, but I'm not too super impressed. 20 million damage isn't a lot to me. I think it's very low, in fact. You know, if he actually was guaranteed a triple or quad super, then I'd be more impressed here. But knowing my luck, you know, I'm going to get 2 supers at best and then a bunch of normals. So 50 million damage isn't really that insane to me, considering on a team like Omega's, where Omega is pumping out 70 on an immediate super and then double triples, I'm just not impressed. So we are getting to the point where we kind of need to see much higher damage numbers, and we do want to see, you know, just more crit, which, you know, 17 auto crit. So that is nice to know that he's actually doing some decent damage. 2 stacks in, you'll be doing about 36 million on the 18 key, and then 23, 24, 26 on the following super attacks. So I don't think it's too bad a damage. I think he can do very decent and noteworthy damage for the team. I wouldn't say he's the primary damage dealer, but I definitely would say he does a good significant amount of damage. I think he does a decent point of defensibility, but he's not really supporting, and he's not really doing anything else. But with all that being said, let's just kind of get to the main point of the video that 99% of you probably skipped ahead to, and that would be the build suggestions. So, right hand side of the screen here, this is a 55% build, as you can see, top right hand corner right there. I do suggest for a 55% you just chuck in a level 5 silver additional and a level 2 bronze. I would highly suggest just purely because this guy's defense completely hinges on him doing an additional. So the utmost amount of additional should be prioritized. He just absolutely needs it. One level 5 defense orb will not make a huge difference for your 55% build, in my personal opinion. And to those wondering immediately, no, he does not have any special equips, at least not at the time of recording. So let's just go ahead and move on to the 1 dupe build, which would be 69%, which you should focus on the bottom right-hand corner path first, always. Now, with 1 dupe, I would suggest you focus on additional once again. You'll have 3 nodes to attack on there, so that'll be 3, 6, 9. With your level 5 silver and level 2 bronze, you can get that up to a level 16 additional, which is a 32% chance to additional. Not bad. Will definitely help quite a bit. Because this guy auto crits after receiving 7 attacks, if not less actually, I see no purpose in giving him crit. You know, the irony that he is a tech type and he starts with crit, you should just put the last node into dodge. There's no reason not to. So moving forward with that, we'll move on to the 2 dupes and above build. Now this is the time frame where I can honestly tell you, yes, this is when you can go ahead at 2 dupes and above specifically. You can give him a bronze defense equip. I think that's when you can afford it specifically. And the only reason I say that is because I really do have to say that I feel he needs additional 100%. His defense hinges on that additional attack going off, and I really cannot emphasize it enough. So once you get to 2 dupes and above, by all means, go ahead and do it then. But you still need to focus on additional in his hidden potential and hope that you get that quad or triple, at the very least a triple super every single time on his appearance. So once again, top left-hand path would be your next dupe slot. Put all of the nodes into additional. You'll have 1 node left over. Make sure it's the dodge node. So that will give you a level 15 additional. With the equipment, level 5 silver and gold will pump you up by 10 to a 25 additional, which is a 50% chance to additional, because every level of additional is 2% chance. Now, for those that do not care for that little bit of defense and really want that extra potential 4% chance to actually additional, by all means, you can swap out the defense orb for a level 2 additional. It's entirely up to you. Some people don't have the defense orbs to burn. Some people don't have the additional orbs to burn. It's entirely up to you and your RNG, really. So with that being said, we'll move on to the roll tips. Now, the roll tips is a little bit unfortunate, I will say. I do feel like 17 is both a damage dealer and a tank. I'm not going to say he's like a perfect tank, and I'm not going to say he's a perfect damage dealer. He's kind of a mix between both. Because he has the greatly stacking on his 18 key, he's auto-critting. But at the same time, he has all this damage reduction, potential damage reduction, on a specific team. And I do feel like at his highest point, at full power, basically, I do truly believe you almost couldn't kill him. It just really depends, you know? So, yeah. But anyways. So, if you really want to, you can keep him on rotation. I do not necessarily suggest it, but I do feel like this guy is more of a floater. Because currently, the GT Bosses team is kind of more focused around Omegas and basically Shadow Dragons. And honestly, if you are running Baby is going to take priority to stay on rotation over 17, because 17 just needs to get hit 7 times, and then he's just kind of there. But Baby constantly needs to build up his defense because he actually is pretty low too and doesn't have the raw amount of damage reduction that 17 has. Or the potential damage reduction that he has. Now eventually when the Hellfighter 17 is actually EZA, that'll be his best partner. But until then, you really just need to focus on Omega, staying on rotation with him, and keep your partners and leaders to target Goku and androids. I didn't emphasize GT Bosses here because the only reason GT Bosses is the best team is because Omega exists. If Omega didn't exist, GT Bosses would be the worst potential possibility. The only reason that he's good on GT Bosses is because Omega gives 10% damage reduction, and 20% in total for a double lead. And that makes up for the lack of his full passive, technically speaking. So, but with his full passive, he could be much better. Either way, whatever way you want to dice it, he needs to be kind of floated off because he's just not meant to be on rotation with the current lineup of units that we have. Eventually, one day, when you can abuse his full passive, when you do have a perfect slot 1 link partner, that is when he still will be slot 2. He does not have a good enough pre-super defense to be thrown into slot 1, unfortunately. So, but I think that's going to be it for the video, everyone. It was a bit of a drag out because Super 17 is very finicky. He does have quite a few technical points to him. He's very restricted in the area of extreme type categories like androids and target Goku. I do feel like eventually, if we do get a target Goku like 220 leader, that's where he's going to sit nice and pretty. That'll be his best home. It just all depends on how much target Goku support continues forward in the coming months of the game. So, anyways, everyone, thank you for watching the video. Please let me know how you decided to build 17 specifically and what team you can potentially run him on. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day and a good night.